So welcome to the Viv podcast. Today I'm joined with Jon Wilson, founder and managing director of SocialTap. SocialTap is an agency that specialises in Facebook marketing within the automotive industry. Jon, thank you very much for joining me today.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Danny.
No, not a problem at all. Obviously, we were meant to do this face-to-face. However, I think the diaries didn't quite match up. So we've kind of had to revert to the virtual calls, the digital, which is fine anyway. So, Jon, first of all, I think for our listeners anyway, just give us an introduction to yourself and a bit about your story and how you founded SocialTap, etc.
Okay, so my background has been digital marketing all of my career. I worked at a number of different digital marketing agencies, eventually starting my own business in 2019, I think it was.
All right, okay.
At the time, I'll be honest, I hadn't had any background in automotive. It wasn't an industry necessarily that I had looked at as one that we could work in. You know, purely by chance, I got introduced to a business that needed some help through a friend, and I very quickly looked at, the other marketing providers in the industry.
Yep.
How businesses in automotive were currently generating inquiries, and just felt like, and I was actually quite surprised that, maybe the main dealers and the big businesses in the industry might have had paid social or Facebook ads covered to an extent, but how many still pretty big independent dealers that there are that are underneath these larger organizations. And I'm still quite surprised how reliant they were on traditional marketing channels, the aggregator sites and what have you. So one thing turned into another. We did a great job for this client, off the back of that, won a few more clients in terms of referrals. And then decided as a business, probably within about 9 months, that, look, if we dedicate our time solely to this industry and continue to learn about it, learn about the sales processes, learn about the consumers and the different things that drive them, how much better could we get at doing what we do and get...
By specialising in that industry itself, yeah.
Because, I think that the traditional marketing agency model can be a little bit flawed when, somebody has to work on 20 different clients in 20 different industries, and you can only spend so much time on one. For the last 4 years, our team, 95% of our time has been solely dedicated to automotive, and we've brought in specialists to help us understand certain things. So again, 4 years on, we've worked with some great businesses. We've worked with some fantastic independent dealers, the likes of Peter Vardy and Garage and Hippo and some other great businesses like that.
Large dealerships, I know.
Yeah, and then we also do a lot in the finance broker space as well. So we've worked with some of the main guys in the finance broker space. Our big thing has always been that digital marketing should be something that is easy to measure in terms of not certainly not vanity metrics like impressions and likes and comments. It needs to be measured in terms of, well, really sales.
Yeah.
From day one, we've just set out to be a business that tells our clients the information that they need to hear, which is, this is how much money you've spent, and this is how many cars you've sold, or whatever it is that you do. And because of that, I think our clients have found our approach quite refreshing, because our intentions and motivations are aligned with theirs, which is getting more customers through the door. So everything we do is based on that, and then also proving that we've done it, and having a very transparent relationship with our clients, that we have influenced and we have got them people through the door who have then gone on to purchase vehicles. We can track that last year, I think it was around £75 million worth of vehicles that we helped our clients to to sell, and that would have been through Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, paid ad campaigns that we have created and managed for our clients.
And that's and you take them from point A to point B of the sale.
Absolutely, and again, the most important thing for us is that there's a robust tracking mechanism that we can say that Mrs. Jones, who's interested in that Audi A3, has come from a campaign that we've created, and we give our clients a return on investment on not just the overall activity that we have done, but every single campaign and ad set within it, so that we know how to scale campaigns, and we can build consistency and reliability about our clients next month. Generally speaking, we can give them a prediction of how many cars they're likely to sell for the budget that they spend, and we can also tell them what happened last year in terms of did the cost to acquire a lead increase, decrease? Was the lender's appetite greater or worse? Did people finance more expensive cars in August compared to July? And a lot of the work that we do is underpinned by data, because we've got that 4 years worth of experience and knowledge. And again, from an early stage, we really felt like data was something that was going to be really important to us, helping make the right decisions for our clients moving forwards.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. So did you find yourself getting dragged into the automotive industry essentially, as opposed to choosing it?
It was more a bit of luck, I guess. It felt like there was too good an opportunity not to it was a bit of a risk at the time. Well, I say a risk, really, that smaller business, that it's easy to take those risks compared to being a larger organization. However, you always think maybe at the time, are we going to be missing out by really focusing on one industry? But it really is the best thing that we've ever done. I love the industry. I think it's a great industry to work in. I think it's one that has seen a lot of change in the 4 years that we've been working in it. Some of that's been forced with COVID and what have you. And I think there's been a lot of digitalization that's happened very, very quickly. But it's been great to see, one thing that during that period, it was great to see how resilient the businesses were within it, and how they are able to pivot really quickly when needed. And I'd imagine that lots of businesses are sort of better off in terms of their approach and the way that they handle inquiries, etc., off the back of that period of time. I think that we help our clients to facilitate that a little bit, because we're helping them to advertise on a channel that now we're spending more and more time on. But our job, because our motivations and our focus is on sales, also means that we help our clients now not just to obsess about what images we're using or what videos and who we're targeting and so on. We're also understanding that working with our clients to look at that entire customer journey, from seeing an ad on Facebook all the way through to purchasing a vehicle, and actually what happens after that. One thing that as time has gone on, we've started to work on with our clients is like a CRM marketing strategy, because we know that our clients amass a large quantity of inquiries, and like with any organization or any industry, not all of those inquiries convert into sales. And these inquiries have been paid for. We've spent money to acquire them. And again, one thing that we sort of noticed early on was that not much happens with the inquiries that don't convert. They sort of get forgotten about because there's new stuff coming in every day. So we've now started to help our clients to understand the value of the database, their CRM, and they're helping them with like email campaigns, automations, SMS campaigns, and so on. And again, that is, when we first started off, that was a little bit outside of our wheelhouse, but it was because we spotted an opportunity where our clients can convert more sales, and that they were almost sat on their lap. They were there in front of them, but they just needed a partner to help them to go and find these people, because the car dealers, and even some of the brokers that we work with, they want to concentrate on speaking to clients, trying to get them into cars, and they probably want to work with a business like ours who has the right mindset or has the same motivations as them. Is we want to try and sell as many cars as we can in every single month.
I think that what's really refreshing, John, is that you specialize in the automotive industry. I think that's something that they would all share the thoughts of. Is it's just simple things like terminology within the industry. So if you're looking after all that kind of stuff, it just means that if you specialize in automotive, when you're looking after that, in regards to any other social media posts or anything like that, there's anything that's going out, the terminology is correct. And I think that's something that some marketing agencies miss out on.
Yeah, there's lots of intricacies about this industry. You think about compliance being one that, again, is not something that anybody, another marketing agency down the road, that's something else that they need to get clued up on.
Yeah, exactly.
You think about, especially with things to do with finance, understanding the complexities around that. And, one thing that we do is we analyze data at quite a large scale to understand, lender appetite. So we've seen, a good example of this is in the last 6 to 9 months, we've seen how the amount of income that somebody earns, how that heavily influences the likelihood of someone getting approved for finance, and therefore the balance of the lend that the finance companies are willing to give them, and therefore the car that somebody can get, and how that's changed as months have gone on with cost of living increasing and what have you. And although that's probably a bit of a common sense thing, but we don't need to leave that up to somebody thinking, I wonder if, because we can see that clear as day in the data that we've got, and therefore we can make those quick decisions for clients before they're even coming to us and saying, we've noticed this. We've already noticed it, and we've already made the changes to campaigns to try and affect it.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now, just kind of sticking on digital, what would you say is the importance of digital? Where should dealerships be putting their attention to the most?
Yeah, I mean, the
Facebook
most
marketing, probably.
I'd argue that actually wherever you can and wherever time permits you to, the really interesting thing over the last, whatever it's been, 2-3 years, is the rise of TikTok. And
I've been using TikTok recently, right? So I'm not on it too much, but now and again I'm on it. And if I do look at a car and I stay on for the full length of the video, I have seen that. Wow, the amount of cars that show on after that on my For You page is unbelievable. So I don't know what matrix they use there, but it's incredible. As soon as you watch something, what comes on after that is exactly related to exactly what you're watching.
The algorithm is very impressive with TikTok. It does a very good job of, maybe with some of the other platforms, you might see similar content to your friends at some point, whereas TikTok has seemed to almost create almost perfect personalized content for each individual, and that's probably part of the reason why it's been so successful and so addictive, is because they do a great job of getting the right content in front of each person's nose. But if I felt like maybe it was during the lockdowns and what have you, where TikTok really got very popular very quickly over here, and at that point probably lots of dealers were thinking, oh well, but is it going to take off and have you? I mean, look at it now. It's sort of, unless
so many social media platforms, so it's having someone to be able to manage all of them I think that's the issue sometimes is, there's so many out there, and it's where do you put your attention to the most?
Yes, it is, and I guess you have got to sort of pick your battles, so to speak, and spend your time as wisely as possible. But in my opinion, having some sort of resource, whether that is internal or external, that is helping your business with social media is not a nice to have anymore. It's a must.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the industry is completely changing, but you've also got to think about how the age of consumers is changing in the sense that people in their 30s and 40s that are buying certain cars now, 10 years ago you'd say, yeah, but people in the 30s and 40s aren't really using whatever social media channels, so we can, if you own a sort of premium prestige car dealership, it's like, yeah, well, social media maybe is still something for younger people and what have you, but with every year those younger people are getting older and older and older, and now it's anybody probably under the age of 40, it's been ingrained into their everyday life for the last 15 years at least, and it's become as big a habit as cleaning your teeth or whatever else you do during the day. And we're consuming more and more time on social than
as a generation, it's only becoming more and more prominent. So why that is where all the eyes are. So you have to put all your, not all your resources, but you need to definitely, as time goes on, start investing in that as much as possible. 100%.
And you got to think about, the sort of traditional marketing, the aggregator sites and what have you. If they're advertising heavily or spending a lot of time on content on these platforms, well, why are they doing that? They're doing that to protect their businesses and make sure that they're still as current in 5, 10, 15 years time. You think about the Auto Trader moving from the magazine to digital and what have you. It sort of is a bit, we're almost to some degree should be past the point of social media having to sort of champion it, if that makes sense. It's not a case of like, should we be doing this now? It's like no one's missed the boat with anything. There's still fantastic opportunities on social media for small businesses and large businesses and what have you, but it isn't a nice to have anymore, that's for sure. It has to be I would argue, and I'm not just saying this because of the nature of my business, but it's got to be, up there with the most important, when you write your business plan or whatever, or your what we're going to do next year, social media really has to be, right up there at the top of the priorities for how to market a business, not just in automotive, but it doesn't matter what you sell nowadays, because that's where people's eyeballs are. If people's eyeballs eventually move to something else, then that's where you need to move to. But at the minute, we're spending more and more time than ever on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, all these social media platforms. And the age of people that this behavior has been indoctrinated into are getting older and older and older, and these people are going to become the Range Rover buyers and etc. etc. So yeah, I'd there isn't, I wouldn't necessarily say that, oh, you should. There's opportunities in all, and I'd say that often what people do is they overlook the more emerging channels because they're still young, but actually that's probably the best time to get in to some of these. I mean, we had some clients, TikTok for example, that started creating some content a good few years back, and because TikTok was still relatively new, and I'm sure that TikTok influenced this to try and encourage people to use it, but they were getting huge amounts of reach from organic content because it's sort of like right place, right time scenario. Do you know what I mean? So and you know, again, the other thing is nowadays it's relatively easy for businesses to, you know, to do this type of stuff, because there are specialist companies that specialize, not just ourselves, but specialize in automotive. We've got a background in it and understand it. It doesn't have to be, you know, you've got to try and do this yourself without any sort of knowledge of what works and what doesn't work and what have you.
Sure.
So yeah.
Well, the thing is, if you're not going to shout about yourself, who is? You know, so 100%. What do you think dealers struggle with the most? Now, this could be digital, or it could just be a broad question.
Yeah. Well, I think there's two things. I mean, one is, again, it depends on the, you know, again, depends on the size of the business. But if it's a relatively small independent dealer, it might be time, it might be, you know, experience and knowledge, and worrying what to do. And I'd still always argue that doing something is better than nothing. And you know, nobody knows what to do on some of these platforms when they first start out, but you create stuff and you figure it out, and it's test and iteration. Yeah. I think the other big thing, and it sort of links into to what you guys do, is, you know, one real opportunity that I've seen in the industry now is, you know, we talked about this just briefly before, that social media has made the world a much smaller place.
Yeah.
And what that's done is created a wealth of options for consumers. Again, it doesn't matter what product it is really, but if we talk specifically about cars, and again, I think COVID accelerated this. In 10 years ago, you would have probably chosen to buy a car from a business that was relatively local to you, but for a number of different reasons. You feel a bit safer that they're close by if there's a problem with the car, just the convenience of getting there in the first place. But people now are, and again, I was actually a little bit surprised about this when I first started working in this industry, but people are prepared to buy cars now remotely. Or even the majority of the process remotely.
Yeah.
And I think that is partly because our behaviors are changing. I think it's also partly because of convenience. Everybody lives busy lives, and you know, do people still go to car forecourts on a Saturday afternoon and look at lots of cars? Absolutely. But are there also a bunch of people that are happy looking through the internet and, you know, a dealer's website in effect being the forecourt? Yeah, we know that, because that's how the majority of, you know, our client sales were done last year, and it's increasing every year. And what the negative of that for car dealers, I guess, is that it also opens up a lot more competition. So, you know, in the past, when people may have been content with buying a car from somebody within a half an hour drive, you know, there was less competition, whereas now, those sort of geographical barriers have been removed, and that means that people have got to compete more for sales. You know, you've got more competition now, and that doesn't mean that there's price wars going on or anything like that, but what it means is that the service or the process of handling leads has to be really, really strong now. You know, you've got to do everything that you can to engage with people as quickly as possible. I mean, that's one thing, is the speed of which, you know, an inquiry coming into the business and then being dealt with is such an important thing, because what we see is that when somebody sees an ad on Facebook, they don't tend to stop at clicking on and inquiring at that one business. They may inquire at 2, 3, 4 businesses. So first of all, how that lead is handled immediately is so important. But then every step of the way, you've got to sort of try and keep those inquiries as close to you as possible. So linking that to what you guys do, you know, offering that service where you're able to send, you know, an inquiry, a personalized video, but that you've been able to produce really quickly because of, you know, the service that you guys offer, is one of those things that is just that bit extra than what they're going to get from the dealer that they have inquired with. And I think that things like that nowadays are so important. Now, that's not necessarily, and then, you guys will know better than I do, it's not necessarily forcing businesses to become, remote selling businesses. I'm sure that your service is as much likely to encourage people to come down and look at that car in person as it would, somebody maybe having the confidence to buy it remotely. But the one thing that you're doing is you're sort of taking that person out of market as quickly as possible, and not necessarily restricting, but not giving that person a reason to go and speak to, a competitor who's got a similar-ish car at a similar-ish price point, because that lead's not been really handled that well. I mean, that's one thing that, I see that the businesses that we work with that do better than others, it's not necessarily, the ads that have been created or anything else. It's actually how well the leads are handled once they've been created as to how successful they are. So, that I think is, whether it's a difficulty or whether it's, and again, the one thing with that is it's something that has to adapt. There's different types of leads, leads coming in from, Auto Trader and what have you, maybe need to be handled differently to leads that come in from social media and other channels. But having something where you're able to offer a process which is better than your competitors, I think in this day and age, is something that is so important.
It's taking you off the page, isn't it? It's there might be a Volkswagen Golf, for instance, at this location. There might be another one at dealership B, and it's interacting with that customer straight away. Because, like we said, if a customer is on, say, Auto Trader, they're typically looking at a few other cars that are similar to the one that they've inquired on with yourself. And it's taking yourself off the page and giving the customer a reason to come and visit that your site and come and see that car, go on a test drive. So I couldn't agree with you anymore, John. It's engaging with that customer as soon as possible. And thank you very much for tying us in the sense of video is where we specialize in is yes, send the personalized video, but it's how quick can you send that video out to a customer? How can you engage with that customer professionally as quickly as possible? And I've had
way as well. Do you know what I mean? Like the customer can get this information without you forcing them to come down to your car dealership. And people, like I say, and the other thing, time kills deals, doesn't it? I think that's a relatively common saying. And somebody inquires about a car on a Tuesday, the earliest that they can get down to see you is on a Sunday. With that time elapsing, I know that you could argue that, well, if they weren't willing to come down earlier, or if they weren't willing to come down on Sunday, how interested they were they? But people buy cars impulsively. We know that. And, the shorter amount of time that you can deal with that inquiry, the more likely you are to convert the sale. And having a service like yours where you're able to send that video really, really quickly when somebody has helps you to build rapport. We're encouraging our clients to start embracing different communication methods as well. It's quite heavily been reliant on phone calls, picking up the phone and ringing people or getting them onto site. WhatsApp is such a great opportunity, business WhatsApp for businesses to engage with customers, because again, we lead busy lives. And, if you've inquired about a car, for someone to take half an hour out of my day, for example, or any of our team's day, look, we're quite a relaxed business, but in other businesses, you're not going to be able to take half an hour off to speak to someone during the day. But being able to send them a few WhatsApps about it, in between breaks, calls, whatever, sending the video over to them by WhatsApp or a link to it and what have you. These are the types of things that businesses need to think about now. It's not just about where should we advertise. It's about how can we deal with that lead in the most efficient way possible, better than anybody else, once we've got it in the first place.
Yeah, and not letting them go, not giving, obviously not giving them the opportunity, not keeping them hostage, but you basically want to interact with them as soon as possible, so then you can get them in and supply them with the next gen car. So obviously we've kind of touched base on social media quite a lot, but I just want to go over it again. What is the importance of social media within the automotive industry? How important is it? Because, we went over it earlier on in regards to, how much should they invest into it? Where should they be putting their money? But how important is it for them?
Yeah, well, it's wherever people's eyeballs are, that's where you need to advertise. If we all start wearing VR headsets in the next few years, and that's where we're
going there.
Yeah, that's where we start consuming our content, then that's where we need to advertise. You want to be in people's minds as often as possible, and social media gives a fantastic scalable way to do that can be targeted and that can be measured, most importantly, as well. But when the time comes that people's attention is somewhere else, then that's where people then need to advertise as well. I'm also by the way a huge advocate of having a very healthy marketing mix across different channels, because having a more omnipresent approach where you are on Google, you're doing display ads, you're doing whatever else, and people can see you in 4 or 5. Again, there's so many stats out there about how many touch points it takes for someone to to eventually convert with your business. So I'm not saying that social media is the be all and end all, but it is an extremely important part of a successful marketing mix nowadays. There's some fantastic opportunities on Facebook and Instagram. Nobody's missed the boat who isn't doing anything now. We're working with startup businesses that are entering the market that haven't had the benefit of advertising on Facebook for the 10 years, and they can still be hugely successful. But again, the sort of little sort of sparks of that can become something much bigger. All the things like TikTok and potentially Threads and whatever other social media network is going to come out next. I'd never ignore those, because for a little bit of effort, you never know, there might be something that just explodes. I mean, this is a slightly different subject. It's not about a car dealer in particular, but we work with a influencer on TikTok. It's probably a bit unfair to call her an influencer, actually, but she's a content creator for the automotive industry. And she started off by just creating content about car leasing. What was the best deals, and what are some of the things that you should be aware of, and what's the total cost of the lease and what have you. And it's just gradually grown and grown and grown. This is all completely organic. And then we did a bit of work with her, with a leasing client that we work with. And now I've seen on LinkedIn that she's doing work with Bentley. She's now the host of a TV show on Dave.
Wow.
It isn't all like manufactured in any way whatsoever. This is her putting some effort into creating a channel 2-3 years ago, probably, and it growing organically. And there's no reason why dealers can't do the same thing. I guess they just got to put some effort into it and try different things. Maybe not take it too seriously, not overcomplicate it, not worry about it too much. But also not give up, I think, is a big one. Maybe sometimes car dealers, they try a bunch of stuff that everybody wants instant gratification. I'm talking, probably more on the organic side than paid, but and eventually they'll go, this isn't worth the time and effort. But I think that social media, like things like YouTube channels and what have you, you probably feel like you're not getting anywhere for 6, 12, 18 months, and all of a sudden, something takes off. And
I think just in business in general, not even just just in general. I mean, I founded Vehicles in Video in 2019 as well, and marketing is a massive part of our success. To be honest, is if you don't care about what you do, who else is? You've got to show everyone what you're doing. For them to actually care about what you're doing. So I couldn't agree with you more on that aspect of things.
And again, if you've got other marketing channels that are working great, then social media can be something that just adds that bit on top in terms of credibility. And imagine somebody does see one of your cars on Auto Trader, for example, then goes to your Facebook page, doesn't see any content on there for ages. It's like, oh, okay, these are a bit iffy. Now, I understand that might only be that one person, but if that one person turns into 5 people, and that for 5 people every single month, there's lots of opportunities or lots of sales that are going missing because of not putting that little bit of effort into putting some content out there every so often. Do you see what I mean? So it can actually help other marketing channels perform better as well. And likewise, you can also, there's a lot of really simple paid campaigns that you can run, like retargeting campaigns, which are purely just benefiting off the traffic that's been generated from other channels. And again, you're just then staying in people's minds by, remarketing to them for the next week, 2 weeks, month, 6 months, however long you want. And look, it's I guess everything's relative, but the amount it costs, and I know this isn't the be all and end all, as I said, this would be classed for us as a vanity metric, but the amount it costs to reach 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 people, is pretty minimal in the grand scheme of things compared to, some traditional marketing channels. Reaching people is not the be all and end all. However, it is still an important thing to be able to reach people at mass and be able to do it in a cost efficient way.
It's reaching them, but like we said earlier on, it's also keeping a hold of them, making sure that them leads are dealt with in the correct manner.
Yeah. And the timing aspect, I know that not everybody is in market to buy a car right now, but you have an opportunity to make sure that when that person is thinking about changing the car, if you've done a good enough job with social, whether it be through organic or paid, you can be the business that they think of first when they decide to go and start looking for cars. And I'd say that social is a unique thing in some respects, in that there's a more level playing field against some of the bigger organizations. Even though we've got the big main dealers and what have you, and if you put a bit of effort in and a bit of creativity, then you can actually level the playing field a bit against the guys who've got stupidly big budgets and what have you. So surely that's an opportunity in itself, where you can compete with those guys, on relative terms, without having to fork out lots of money to do that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Staying on the topic of kind of video, what's the importance of video? So even for like social media, for instance, what's the interactions, what's the engagement between a video or between just like a normal post, for instance?
Well, there's lots of different trends on social, and they change frequently, and that's again probably linking back to what one of the difficulties are, is always keeping up to date with what the trends that's in both terms of organic content and paid content. Again, TikTok has probably created a lot of trends that have then transferred over to Facebook and Instagram. But you can see, why has TikTok become so popular?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's because of this, look, they use a lot of the techniques that other platforms use, like infinite scroll and what have you, but it's short form video content, which is almost addictive to us, because then we can consume another thing and another thing. I mean, what it's doing for our attention spans is probably not particularly healthy, but that's a discussion for another time. So look, if this platform has become so popular because of short form video content, it would sort of make sense to be considering that with your own marketing strategy, particularly on social media. I think we've also moved more towards now, you think about the progression of content that we see, not just on social media, but also on the TV now as well. You probably need to really look out for it. But I think we're moving a bit more into a world that's trying to create authenticity rather than fake manicured videos. And there's a term we use in the social media world, which is UGC, which is user generated content. And that's where we're using not necessarily, very polished, almost sort of TV style videos or animation and stuff like that, but we're using content that's been created potentially by a customer or a salesperson, and it's using an iPhone. It's very sort of raw, and it can be edited and it can have overlays on it, but the footage itself is sort of very raw footage, but it's real and it's authentic. And actually that's a great thing, because as you can imagine, that content is a lot easier to produce than going buying an expensive camera and sorting out lighting and everything else.
Just getting your personality across it goes so much further than just creating something that's so professional. You obviously want to have some sort of professionalism in it, but getting your character across is so important as well, because at the end of the day, people buy from people. So in order to get your personality across, and for that customer to come in and come and speak with you, to take time out of their day, come and visit you, that's so important.
Well, I was going to link it back before to what you said about the videos that your clients are able to create for their clients. One of the great opportunities that is there going to be a better way for them to be able to create rapport as early as possible? In a way, creating this type of content for social media actually allows you to create rapport before you've even engaged with that customer. So and I think that there is a bit of I think buying a car can still be a bit of a scary thing for certain people. It's a big purchase. There's lots of paperwork and with finance and etc. There's only so much you can do to open up and sort of how do I say this, make that process seem as straightforward as possible with an image or with a bit of text. Actually talking to someone and explaining to them, look, this is buying a car in its simplest terms, and these are the things that you need to consider, etc., can really help to make it a much less scary proposition. So I think that there's again some great opportunities around that type of content, and I guess part of that is education as well. People are somebody might have bought 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cars throughout the lifetime. You might also have a lot of people where it's the first car or the second car, or previously they've had help buying a car from a family member and now they're on their own doing it, and it can be a bit daunting. I think video is one of the best ways in which you can warm to people, to make them feel safe coming to you. Almost sort of let them know what to expect before they've even come onto your dealership and what have you.
Sure. No, 100% couldn't agree with you more. And thank you very much for kind of tying that in. That was perfect. Well, Jon, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to jump on with us. I'm pretty sure that everyone who's tuned into the podcast has learned a lot. And thank you very much for your insights. Well, I'm sure even going forward, I think we're going to continue these podcasts going on. So, it's good to get industry leaders like yourself jumping on and sharing your thoughts with us. So thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for everyone who tuned into the podcast. And we'll catch you in the next one. Take care.